The galaxy of Warhammer 40k is a sprawling tapestry of conflict, ambition, and ancient forces vying for dominance. Among its myriad factions, few embody the raw power and terrifying potential of chaos more than its chosen warriors, the champions of chaos. These individuals, marked by the chaos gods themselves, serve as the apex predators of the warp's influence, carrying the will of their dark patrons into the material realm with devastating force. But why do such champions exist? What purpose do they serve in the grand schemes of the chaos gods, and how have they come to wield such power? To understand the creation of the champions of chaos, we must delve into the very fabric of the immaterium, the realm of chaos. Within this swirling sea of raw emotion and psychic energy, the chaos gods reign supreme, each embodying an aspect of mortal existence taken to its most extreme form. Khorne, the bloodthirsty god of war and honor. Tzeentch, the ever-changing god of fate and ambition. Nurgle, the bloated lord of decay and despair. And Slaanesh, the dark prince of excess and pleasure. Each seeks to expand their influence in the material realm, their power growing with the worship and suffering of mortals. The champions of chaos are the instruments of this will. They are not merely soldiers or pawns, but pivotal agents, each a unique fusion of mortal ambition, divine blessing, and unbridled power. From fallen space marines to ambitious warlords and even heretical psychers, the champions are as diverse as the mortals who fall under chaos's sway. Yet, all share a common thread: the unrelenting drive to ascend beyond their peers, to rise above the mediocrity of mortality, and to claim a sliver of divinity for themselves. The rise of a champion is never accidental. Each step on their path is guided by the chaos gods, who exploit their ambitions, fears, and desires to shape them into perfect tools of destruction and corruption. The result is a figure of terrifying might, capable of reshaping battlefields and influencing entire campaigns in the name of their dark masters. However, this is no altruistic act by the chaos gods. Every champion serves a purpose, their existence a calculated move in the endless game of power played between the dark entities of the warp. In this tale, we will unravel the reasons behind the creation of these warriors, their roles in the grand schemes of chaos, and the toll their power exacts. From the first whispers of corruption to their ultimate apotheosis or destruction, the journey of a chaos champion reveals as much about the mortal soul as it does about the machinations of the gods themselves. Through blood-soaked battlefields, cunning manipulations, and the ever-present danger of annihilation, the champions of chaos represent the pinnacle of chaos's seductive power and its ultimate price. The question is not just why the champions exist, but what their existence tells us about the nature of chaos itself. Why do the gods choose specific mortals for such power? Are they merely expendable tools in the greater game, or do they hold a significance far beyond what even their masters comprehend? In answering these questions, we venture deep into the heart of chaos, exploring the unrelenting conflict that defines the galaxy, and the mortal souls ensnared within it. The emergence of the champions of chaos can be traced back to the earliest moments when mortal beings first encountered the influence of the warp. In the distant past, long before the present age of unending war, mortals began to sense the existence of the immaterium, a realm that mirrored the emotions and desires of sentient creatures. As civilizations rose and fell, their collective ambitions, fears, and rage gave shape to the powerful entities now known as the Chaos Gods. From the very beginning, these entities sought to manifest their will in the material world. However, their nature prevented direct interaction with physical reality. To enact their schemes, they required agents, mortals capable of channeling their power and serving as conduits for their influence. The first champions of chaos were born out of this need, created to bridge the gap between the immaterium and the mortal realm. In the early days, such champions were not the godlike figures we recognize today. They began as ordinary beings, warriors, leaders, or mages, who caught the attention of the Chaos Gods through their exceptional strength, cunning, or ambition. The gods would whisper promises of power and glory into their minds, exploiting their weaknesses and amplifying their desires. These individuals, driven by their hunger for greatness or their desperation to escape their own mortality, would take the first steps down the path of damnation. As these champions grew in power, their connection to the warp deepened. The Chaos Gods bestowed upon them gifts, physical mutations, psychic abilities, and potent weapons, transforming them into fearsome beings capable of feats beyond mortal comprehension. These gifts were not given freely, however. Every boon came at a cost, often warping the champion's mind and body until they barely resembled their former selves. Yet, for those who served with unwavering loyalty, the rewards outweighed the sacrifices. The creation of these champions was not uniform. Each Chaos God shaped their followers in unique ways, tailoring their abilities and attributes to reflect their own domains. Warriors of Khorne became blood-crazed berserkers, driven by an insatiable thirst for battle and slaughter. Followers of Tzeentch were granted mastery over the arcane, their minds reshaped into labyrinths of plots and schemes. Nurgle's champions bore the blessings of resilience and decay, spreading pestilence wherever they tread. Meanwhile, Slaaneish's chosen became avatars of excess, their every movement a deadly dance of allure and destruction. It was through these champions that the Chaos Gods began to leave their mark on the galaxy. Entire tribes, kingdoms, and empires fell under the sway of these powerful individuals, their followers drawn by the promise of power or enslaved through fear. As these champions waged war, they brought not just death and destruction, but the very essence of the warp itself, spreading the influence of chaos like a contagion. While many champions rose and fell in obscurity, some left an indelible mark on history. These figures became living legends, their deeds echoing through the ages as testaments to the power and the peril of chaos. Their triumphs inspired countless others to seek the favor of the gods, perpetuating the cycle of corruption and conquest. The rise of the champions of chaos was not a random occurrence, but a calculated strategy by the Chaos Gods. Each champion was chosen not only for their potential to wreak havoc, but also for their ability to manipulate others. They served as leaders, prophets, and symbols, rallying the forces of chaos and spreading its influence far beyond what the gods could achieve on their own. The creation of these champions ensured that chaos would always have a presence in the material realm, a constant threat to order and stability. Yet, the champions themselves were not mere pawns. While they served the will of the gods, they also pursued their own goals, their ambition driving them to ever greater heights or depths. This duality, the interplay between the mortal and the divine, is what made the champions of chaos such powerful and unpredictable forces. They were not bound by the limitations of their mortal origins, nor were they entirely subservient to their masters. Instead, they existed in a space between, embodying the chaos they served in every sense of the word. From the first mortals to hear the whispers of the warp, to the legendary figures who reshaped entire sectors of the galaxy, the champions of chaos have always been integral to the plans of the Chaos Gods. Their creation marked a turning point in the eternal struggle between the immaterium and the material realm, a battle that continues to this day. The champions are both the harbingers of destruction and the catalysts of transformation, their existence a reminder of the power and the danger of chaos. The creation of the champions of chaos was not born from whim, but from the deliberate and strategic designs of the Chaos Gods themselves. These dark entities, manifestations of raw emotion and psychic power within the immaterium, each harbored insatiable ambitions to extend their influence into the physical universe. However, their inability to fully manifest in the material world necessitated the development of intermediaries, mortals who could act as their avatars, executing their will with a blend of mortal cunning and divine power. The Chaos Gods crafted their champions to serve a variety of purposes. At their core, these individuals were weapons, honed to inflict maximum devastation upon the enemies of chaos. Whether it was Khorne's unrelenting bloodlust, Tzeentch's labyrinthine schemes, Nurgle's inexorable plaguecraft, or Slaanesh's seductive allure, each god sought to expand their dominion through the actions of their chosen agents. Yet the champions were not mere destroyers. They were also symbols of the gods' favor, walking testaments to the power of chaos that inspired fear, awe, and conversion among those they encountered. To understand why the chaos gods created these champions, one must first consider their intrinsic nature. The Immaterium is a reflection of the psychic resonance of the galaxy's inhabitants. The emotions, desires, and fears of sentient beings shape this realm, feeding the gods who dwell within it. The champions were created as tools to amplify this connection, their actions generating waves of psychic energy that fed back into the Immaterium, empowering the chaos gods further. Khorne, the god of war and bloodshed, created champions to be the ultimate exemplars of martial prowess and unrelenting violence. These warriors were forged in the crucible of endless combat, their fury serving to stoke the fires of battle wherever they went. To Khorne, every kill and every drop of blood spilled in his name was a tribute, and his champions were his most prolific contributors to this endless harvest. Tzeentch, the god of change and ambition, viewed his champions as instruments of manipulation and subterfuge. They were often master strategists, sorcerers, and tacticians, spreading his influence not only through brute force, but through cunning plots that destabilized entire civilizations. Tzeentch's champions were agents of transformation, reshaping the galaxy to fit his ever-shifting agenda. Nurgle, the god of decay and rebirth, crafted champions as the carriers of his pestilential gifts. These individuals bore the grotesque blessings of their patron with pride, their bloated and corrupted forms spreading disease and despair across worlds. To Nurgle, his champions were not destroyers but cultivators, spreading the inevitability of entropy and the acceptance of his gifts. Slaanesh, the god of excess and sensation, created champions to embody the hedonistic extremes of mortal desire. These individuals were often charismatic and mesmerizing, drawing others into their orbit with promises of pleasure and perfection. Slaanesh's champions were seducers as much as warriors, corrupting entire cultures by appealing to their basest instincts. Beyond the strategic objectives, the creation of champions also served to deepen the bond between the chaos gods and the material world. By empowering mortals to act as their agents, the gods ensured that their influence was felt not only on the battlefield, but in the hearts and minds of those who observed the champions' deeds. These chosen warriors became symbols of what chaos could offer: power, freedom, and transcendence of mortal limitations. For every soul that turned to chaos in fear, admiration, or desperation, the gods grew stronger. The champions also fulfilled a critical role in the internal politics of the chaos gods. These entities are not allies but rivals, locked in an eternal struggle for dominance within the warp. By creating powerful agents, each god sought to outmaneuver and outmatch the others, using their champions as pawns in this cosmic game of supremacy. The victories of a champion were victories for their patron, solidifying their position within the complex hierarchy of chaos. For the mortals who became champions, the journey was often driven by personal ambition, desperation, or circumstance. Some were driven by a desire to escape the constraints of mortality, seeking the power to overcome their enemies or reshape their destinies. Others were victims of manipulation, lured into the service of chaos through promises of salvation or greatness. Regardless of their motivations, all champions shared one common trait: the willingness to abandon the norms of their previous lives in pursuit of the limitless potential offered by chaos. The chaos gods chose their champions carefully, selecting individuals whose traits and circumstances aligned with their goals. A warrior consumed by rage might catch the eye of Khorne, while a scheming politician or sorcerer would appeal to Tzeentch. Nurgle often found his champions among those who faced despair or sickness, offering them a twisted form of hope in exchange for their loyalty. Slaanesh sought out those driven by unquenchable desires, their hunger for sensation making them ideal vessels for his influence. Ultimately, the creation of the Champions of Chaos was a masterstroke of manipulation by the Chaos Gods. These mortals, elevated to heights of power beyond comprehension, became both tools and symbols of the Immaterium's unyielding influence. They were the bridge between the mortal and the divine, their existence a testament to the insidious power of chaos and its ability to corrupt and transform even the greatest of heroes or leaders. In their triumphs and failures alike, the champions served to further the goals of their dark patrons, ensuring that chaos remained an ever-present threat to the galaxy. The origins of the first champions of chaos are shrouded in the ancient history of the galaxy, a time when the Immaterium began to truly influence the material world. As the raw emotions of sentient beings resonated within the warp, the entities now known as the Chaos Gods began to coalesce, fueled by the fears, desires, and ambitions of mortals. This epic marked the first attempts of these nascent gods to reach out and shape reality, and their chosen agents were the harbingers of this influence. The creation of the first champion was not a singular event, but a process born from trial and manipulation. In the galaxy's ancient past, civilizations rose to prominence, their technological and psychic advancements inadvertently drawing the attention of the Chaos Gods. Among these civilizations were individuals who stood out, leaders, warriors, mystics, whose actions resonated deeply within the warp. These individuals became the focal points for the gods' influence, their minds infiltrated by whispers promising power, freedom, and immortality. The earliest recorded instance of such a transformation occurred in the heart of a forgotten empire, where a warrior king led his people in an unending war against a rival kingdom. His relentless thirst for conquest and unyielding rage made him a prime target for Khorne. The blood god reached out to the warrior, appearing to him in dreams and visions of crimson battlefields, offering strength and invincibility in exchange for unwavering devotion. When the warrior accepted, his body and soul were irrevocably changed. His strength became unparalleled, his endurance limitless, and his blade seemed guided by an unseen hand. This was the first champion of Khorne, and his bloody campaign left a scar on the galaxy that echoed in the warp for millennia. Meanwhile, Tzeentch sought his first champion in the courts of a great civilization known for its intrigue and sorcery. A master manipulator, this individual had risen to power through a web of lies, alliances, and betrayal. Tzeentch, the great schemer, recognized a kindred spirit and offered the individual the ability to wield the raw energies of the warp itself. The promise of such knowledge was irresistible, and the would-be champion accepted. Under Tzeentch's tutelage, the individual mastered spells capable of leveling cities and reshaping reality, becoming a terrifying force of change. Nurgle's first champion emerged during a time of great plague and despair. In the depths of a decaying city, a healer struggled to save the lives of his people, his efforts growing increasingly desperate as the sickness claimed more victims. Nurgle saw an opportunity in the healer's despair and whispered promises of relief and salvation. Desperate to save his people, the healer accepted Nurgle's offer, only to be transformed into a bloated, grotesque figure. While the plague was eradicated, the healer's form spread corruption, ensuring Nurgle's influence would linger long after. Slaanesh's first champion arose in an era of decadence, where a ruler of a hedonistic empire sought to push the boundaries of pleasure and sensation. The Dark Prince offered experiences beyond mortal comprehension, seducing the ruler with visions of endless ecstasy. Succumbing to the temptation, the ruler became a figure of unparalleled beauty and lethality, their every action a hypnotic performance that led entire worlds into damnation. The rise of these early champions marked key milestones in the evolution of Chaos's influence over the material realm. With each success, the Chaos Gods refined their methods, learning how to better manipulate mortals and tether their power to the material world. The process was never uniform. Each champion's creation was tailored to their unique circumstances, ensuring that they would be the most effective instrument of their patron's will. The creation of these champions also had ripple effects across the galaxy. Their exploits inspired both fear and admiration, drawing others toward chaos and further feeding the gods' power. Entire societies were corrupted, their rulers and heroes falling under the sway of the warp. In this way, the champions of chaos became not just individuals, but catalysts, their actions sparking cycles of corruption and rebellion that reshaped the course of history. As the first champions rose and fell, the Chaos Gods began to experiment with new ways of empowering their chosen. They refined the rituals and pacts that bound mortals to their service, creating ever more powerful and monstrous agents. These early successes laid the foundation for the legions of champions that would follow, ensuring that chaos would always have a presence in the galaxy. The legacy of the first champions of chaos is still felt today. Their stories, though often lost to the sands of time, serve as a reminder of the seductive power of chaos and the consequences of ambition. They were the prototypes, the first mortals to embrace the dark gifts of the warp and ascend to a state beyond mortality. Their paths were unique, shaped by their circumstances and their patrons, but all shared one defining trait: the willingness to sacrifice everything for the promise of power. Among the countless events in the galaxy shaped by the hand of chaos, few resonate as deeply as the rise of the first Black Crusade, an epic-defining moment that showcased the terrifying power and influence of the champions of chaos. This pivotal event was not merely a battle or campaign. It was a statement of intent from the forces of chaos, declaring their relentless desire to dominate the material realm. Central to this crusade were the champions, whose might and cunning defined its course and left a permanent scar on the galaxy. The Black Crusade was born of desperation and ambition within the Eye of Terror, a region where the warp and the material universe intertwined, creating a haven for the forces of chaos. For centuries, chaos forces had been fragmented, their leaders competing for dominance rather than uniting under a common cause. This disunity pleased the Chaos Gods, who thrived on conflict, but it also limited their influence outside the warp. The first true champion to rise in this era of turmoil was a warlord who managed to consolidate power, uniting disparate warbands under a single banner. The champion was marked by the Chaos Gods as their chosen instrument, their body and mind augmented to embody the essence of their patrons. Wielding both martial prowess and psychic might, they commanded loyalty not only through fear, but through the sheer magnetism of their dark blessings. It was this individual who declared the Black Crusade, a campaign that would see the forces of chaos emerge from the Eye of Terror in an organized and devastating assault on the Imperium of Man. The first major target of the Black Crusade was a fortress world guarding a key sector of space. This planet had stood as a bulwark against chaos incursions for millennia, its defenders stalwart and unyielding. The champion's strategy was cunning and multifaceted, combining brute force with psychological manipulation. Under their leadership, the armies of chaos unleashed waves of assaults, each designed to erode the defenders' resolve and deplete their resources. At the same time, agents of Tzeentch infiltrated the fortress, spreading dissent and mistrust among its leaders. The champion's tactics proved devastating, as the defenders fell not to overwhelming force, but to betrayal from within. Throughout the crusade, the champion demonstrated an uncanny ability to unify the disparate factions of chaos. Khorne's berserkers fought alongside Slaanesh hedonistic warriors, while Nurgle's plague-bearers worked in tandem with Tzeentch's sorcerers. This unity was unprecedented and showcased the unique role of a champion as both a warrior and a leader. They were more than a servant of the gods. They were a symbol of chaos's potential when its forces aligned toward a single goal. One of the most dramatic moments of the Black Crusade occurred during the siege of a sacred cathedral world. This planet was a beacon of hope for the Imperium, its massive cathedrals serving as rallying points for faith and defiance against chaos. The champion, understanding the symbolic importance of this world, made it a priority target. The siege was brutal and protracted, with the forces of chaos employing every weapon at their disposal. Demonic entities tore through the defenders' ranks, while the skies burned with the fire of orbital bombardments. Yet it was the champion's personal intervention that broke the defender's spirit. Clad in armor infused with the essence of the warp, the champion led an assault on the central cathedral, cutting down the planet's greatest defenders in single combat. As they stood atop the altar, desecrating the sacred space, the defenders' morale shattered, and the world fell to chaos. This victory was not just a military triumph, but a psychological blow to the Imperium, demonstrating that even its most sacred symbols could be defiled by the power of chaos. The success of the Black Crusade was not without cost. The champion's forces were eventually repelled after overextending their reach, and the Imperium launched a counteroffensive to reclaim lost territory. Yet the damage had been done. The Crusade had sown seeds of corruption that would linger for centuries, weakening the Imperium from within and ensuring that chaos would always have a foothold in the material realm. For the Chaos Gods, the Black Crusade was a triumph. It demonstrated the efficacy of their champions as instruments of destruction and corruption, and it reinforced their belief in the value of empowering mortals to act as their agents. The champion who led the crusade was ultimately rewarded with apotheosis, ascending to become a demon prince, a being of immense power and eternal servitude to the gods. The Black Crusade remains a defining moment in the history of the galaxy, a testament to the power and potential of the champions of chaos. It showed that chaos was not just a force of disorder, but a formidable and organized threat capable of challenging even the mightiest bastions of the Imperium. The legacy of the Crusade lives on in the countless warbands and champions it inspired, each seeking to replicate the glory and devastation of that fateful campaign. The influence of the champions of chaos on the galaxy is profound and far-reaching, extending beyond mere battlefields and into the very fabric of civilizations, cultures, and even the warp itself. Their actions resonate across time and space, creating ripples that alter the trajectories of empires, religions, and the minds of countless individuals. The champions are not just warriors or leaders. They are catalysts of change, embodying the unpredictable and often devastating power of chaos. One of the most immediate and obvious impacts of the champions of chaos is their role in destabilizing the political and military structures of the galaxy. Their campaigns often target strategic worlds, trade routes, and fortresses, causing widespread disruption. However, the destruction they leave in their wake is only part of the story. The psychological toll on the populations they encounter can be even more significant. Tales of these fearsome individuals, figures who wield unnatural power and can overcome even the most fortified defenses, spread like wildfire, sowing fear and despair. Entire systems have fallen not because of the overwhelming might of chaos, but due to the morale-shattering presence of a champion. When a single individual can lay waste to entire armies, defile sacred sites, and turn allies against one another, the idea of resistance begins to feel futile. This erosion of hope is one of the most insidious effects of the champions of chaos, as it weakens the will to fight long before a battle begins. On a cultural level, the champions of chaos have a corrupting influence that is equally destructive. The mere sight of these figures, often bearing grotesque mutations or wielding weapons infused with warp energy, challenges the fundamental beliefs of those who encounter them. For the Imperium of man, which thrives on faith and rigid orthodoxy, such encounters are particularly devastating. The champions become symbols of heresy, their existence proof that the gods of the warp can grant power beyond comprehension to those who serve them. This realization often leads to a crisis of faith among the populations they encounter. Some turn away from their traditional beliefs, questioning the authority of their leaders, and the divine protection of their gods. Others fall into despair, believing that the galaxy is doomed to be consumed by chaos. Still others are drawn to the champions, seduced by their power and promises of liberation from the oppressive structures of their current existence. These converts become willing agents of chaos, spreading its influence even further. The impact of the champions of chaos is also felt within the warp itself. Each champion serves as a focal point for the emotions and psychic energy of the mortals they encounter. Their deeds generate immense psychic resonance, feeding the chaos gods and strengthening their dominion. This feedback loop ensures that every act of destruction or corruption carried out by a champion amplifies the power of their patron, making future incursions even more devastating. Beyond their immediate surroundings, the champions of chaos influence the broader balance of power in the galaxy. Their presence often forces rival factions to divert resources and attention to dealing with the threat, weakening their ability to address other challenges. The Imperium, for example, has been forced to allocate vast military resources to containing chaos incursions, leaving other fronts vulnerable to Xenos invasions or internal rebellions. This fracturing of focus plays directly into the hands of the Chaos Gods, as it fosters the very disarray they thrive upon. The champions' influence extends even to those who oppose them. The atrocities committed by these individuals often push their enemies to adopt increasingly extreme measures in their efforts to combat chaos. This can lead to moral compromises, authoritarian policies, and the erosion of the very ideals they claim to protect. For example, planetary governors may resort to mass purges or draconian measures to root out suspected chaos sympathizers, further alienating their populations and creating fertile ground for corruption. In this way, the champions of chaos can achieve their goals indirectly, even when they are defeated. One of the most enduring impacts of the champions of chaos is their ability to inspire future generations of followers. Their stories of mortals who ascended to unimaginable power through sheer will and devotion to chaos serve as both warnings and temptations. For those dissatisfied with their lot in life, the idea of following in the footsteps of a champion can be irresistible. This perpetuates the cycle of corruption and ensures that chaos will always have new agents willing to take up its cause. On a cosmic scale, the champions of chaos act as agents of entropy, eroding the stability of the galaxy and accelerating its descent into disorder. They are the embodiments of chaos's ability to corrupt and destroy, serving as reminders that no institution, no belief system, and no individual is immune to its influence. Through their actions, they demonstrate the fragility of order and the inevitability of change, reshaping the galaxy in ways that often cannot be undone. Ultimately, the champions of chaos leave a legacy that is as destructive as it is transformative. They are the harbingers of a galaxy where the boundaries between the material and the immaterium blur, where the will of the chaos gods becomes an inescapable reality for all who live within it. Their influence extends far beyond their lifetimes, ensuring that their deeds and the chaos they represent will continue to shape the galaxy for millennia to come. The champions of chaos are distinguished not only by their power and loyalty to the chaos gods, but also by the unique traits, abilities, and circumstances that set them apart from all others in the galaxy. Each champion is a singular creation, reflecting the unpredictable and personal touch of the warp and their patron god. Their individuality, combined with the gifts of chaos, makes them unparalleled in their capacity for destruction, corruption, and transformation. One of the most striking aspects of the champions of chaos is the deeply personal nature of their blessings. Unlike ordinary soldiers or sorcerers, whose abilities are often defined by training or genetics, the powers of a champion are tailored specifically to them by their patron god. These blessings are not simply tools, but extensions of their very being, reshaping their bodies and minds in ways that align with their god's domain. For example, a champion of Khorne may develop immense physical strength, skin hardened like armor, or weapons fused into their flesh, reflecting the gods' emphasis on martial prowess and bloodshed. In contrast, a champion of Tzeentch might possess a constantly shifting form or eyes that see through the veil of time, embodying the god's mastery of change and foresight. These transformations, often grotesque and terrifying, are more than mere gifts. They are symbols of the champion's alignment with their patron's ideals. The physical mutations that many champions bear are not random but deeply meaningful, reflecting the path they have walked and the devotion they have shown. For some, these mutations enhance their combat effectiveness, while for others, they serve as tools of psychological warfare, instilling fear and awe in those who witness them. Another unique feature of the Champions of Chaos is their ability to act as conduits for the raw power of the warp. Unlike ordinary mortals who risk madness or death when exposed to the Immaterium's energies, champions have been reshaped to withstand and even thrive on its influence. This allows them to channel the warp in ways that are impossible for others, whether through devastating psychic powers, the summoning of demonic allies, or the manipulation of reality itself. These abilities make champions formidable adversaries, capable of turning the tide of battle with a single act of will. The Champions of Chaos are also defined by their boundless ambition. While many mortals are content to serve, champions are driven by an unrelenting desire to rise above their peers and claim their place as the ultimate instruments of their gods. This ambition often manifests in the form of rivalries, as champions vie for their patron's favor and compete against one another in acts of devotion and conquest. These rivalries are not just tolerated, but encouraged by the Chaos Gods, who revel in the conflict and chaos they create. Despite their shared allegiance to chaos, no two champions are alike. Each has their own story, motivations, and methods shaped by their past and their unique relationship with their patron. Some champions are born from tragedy, their fall into chaos driven by loss or desperation. Others are drawn to chaos out of sheer ambition, seeing it as a path to power and glory. This diversity of backgrounds and personalities ensures that the champions are as unpredictable as the forces they serve, making them both fascinating and dangerous. One of the most distinctive aspects of the Champions of Chaos is their ability to inspire and lead others. While many are solitary figures, consumed by their own quests for power, others become rallying points for entire armies. Their charisma, combined with the awe-inspiring power of their blessings, allows them to unite disparate warbands under a single banner, creating forces capable of challenging even the most formidable opponents. These armies are not driven by loyalty or discipline, but by the promise of power and the fear of their champion's wrath, reflecting the chaotic nature of their leadership. The champion's connection to the Chaos Gods also grants them access to knowledge and resources beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Through their patrons, they gain insights into the secrets of the galaxy, access to forbidden technologies, and the ability to forge alliances with demonic entities. These advantages often give them an edge in their campaigns, allowing them to outmaneuver and outmatch their enemies in ways that seem almost supernatural. However, the most unique aspect of the Champions of Chaos lies in their duality. While they are agents of the Chaos Gods, they are also individuals with their own desires, fears, and flaws. This duality creates a constant tension, as the champions must balance their loyalty to their patron with their own ambitions. Some embrace their role wholeheartedly, becoming extensions of their god's will, while others seek to manipulate their patrons, using their power to further their own goals. This dynamic makes the champions unpredictable and often self-destructive, as their internal conflicts drive them to ever greater extremes. In essence, the Champions of Chaos are the epitome of the unpredictable and transformative power of the warp. They are not merely servants or tools, but embodiments of chaos itself, each a unique blend of mortal ambition and divine influence. Their individuality, combined with the limitless potential of their blessings, ensures that they remain some of the most compelling and dangerous figures in the galaxy, their presence reshaping the course of history with every step they take. Throughout the history of the galaxy, certain champions of chaos have risen above their peers, leaving behind legacies of unmatched devastation and infamy. These figures, chosen by their patron gods for their exceptional abilities, determination, and ruthlessness, have become icons of chaos, their names echoing across the stars as both inspiration and warning. Each of these individuals embodies the traits and ideals of their patron god, standing as living manifestations of the warp's dark power. One of the most notorious champions of Khorne is Doombreed, a warlord whose bloody path carved a legend across countless worlds. Before his rise, he was a conqueror in mortal life, renowned for his mastery of battle and insatiable thirst for slaughter. His transition into the service of Khorne came after a massacre so devastating that it caught the attention of the blood god himself. Elevated by Khorne's blessings, Doombreed became a terror incarnate, his every strike an offering to his patron. Clad in armor that seemed to bleed with its own malevolence, he commanded legions of berserkers, leading them in campaigns of annihilation that left entire systems desolate. His name became synonymous with unrelenting violence, and even in death, or whatever form his existence now takes in the warp, his legacy fuels the bloodlust of Khorne's followers. From the domain of Tzeentch, Ahriman, one of the most infamous sorcerers in the galaxy, stands as a prime example of the champion's capacity for intellect and manipulation. Gifted with an unparalleled understanding of the arcane, Ahriman was instrumental in shaping the destiny of his faction through his ill-fated rubric. Though his actions were born from a desire to preserve his brethren, they ultimately served Tzeentch's plans, spreading change and uncertainty throughout the galaxy. Ahriman's mastery of sorcery and his relentless pursuit of forbidden knowledge make him a quintessential champion of the Architect of Fate, a figure whose every action reshapes reality itself. Nurgle's champions are equally notable, with Typhus, the Herald of Nurgle, standing as one of the most horrifying. Once a powerful and ambitious commander, Typhus's fall into Nurgle's embrace transformed him into a harbinger of despair and decay. As the host of the Destroyer Plague, he spreads pestilence and rot wherever he goes, his very presence a blight upon the galaxy. Typhus's loyalty to Nurgle is unwavering, and his every action furthers the Grandfather's goals, bringing both death and the twisted promise of rebirth. Despite his monstrous appearance, Typhus retains his cunning and strategic mind, making him not only a force of nature, but also a skilled tactician. In the service of Slaanesh, Lucius the Eternal is a name that inspires equal parts horror and fascination. A master swordsman and a creature of unrelenting vanity, Lucius represents the extreme of Slaanesh's ideals. His curse ensures that any who defeat him in combat and feel the slightest pride in their victory are transformed into new vessels for his essence, perpetuating his existence and spreading Slaanesh's influence. Lucius is not just a warrior, but an artist of death, each duel a performance designed to captivate and terrify. His story serves as a chilling reminder of the seductive and inescapable nature of Slaanesh's gifts. Beyond these archetypal figures, there are champions who have transcended the boundaries of any single Chaos God, embodying the undivided nature of the warp. Abaddon the Despoiler, the War Master of Chaos, is the most prominent among them. Rising from the ranks of his brethren, Abaddon rejected the limitations of singular patronage, choosing instead to wield the combined power of all four Chaos gods. His ambition and charisma have allowed him to unify the often fractious forces of chaos, launching Black Crusades that have reshaped the galaxy. Abaddon's refusal to be a mere pawn, coupled with his unparalleled tactical genius, has made him one of the most dangerous and influential figures in the galaxy's history. There are also lesser-known champions whose deeds, while perhaps not as widespread, have had profound impacts. Figures like Arcos the Faithless, a master of deception and insurgency, or Fabius Bile, a grotesque genius dedicated to the art of biological corruption, illustrate the diverse paths a champion of chaos can take. Each of these individuals has left a unique mark on the galaxy, whether through cunning, innovation, or sheer destructive power. What unites these champions is not their method but their impact. Each has risen from obscurity to shape the galaxy in profound ways, their actions serving both their own ambitions and the inscrutable designs of the Chaos Gods. They are testaments to the potential of chaos to elevate mortals to godlike status, and to the price that such elevation demands. Their legacies endure, etched into the annals of history and the minds of those who oppose them. To some, they are figures of dread and despair, reminders of the ever-present threat of the warp. To others, they are symbols of the ultimate freedom, proof that chaos offers power beyond imagination to those willing to pay the price. Whatever their interpretation, the champions remain central to the narrative of the galaxy, their stories woven into the fabric of its endless conflict. The champions of chaos are not merely warriors or leaders. They are enigmatic figures shrouded in secrets and mysteries that defy comprehension. Their rise to power, their connection to the Chaos Gods, and the true nature of their existence are riddled with unanswered questions. These secrets add to their allure and danger, as even their allies and patrons may not fully understand the depths of their potential or the forces driving them. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding the champions of chaos is the precise mechanism by which the Chaos Gods choose their favored. While many champions seem to rise from circumstances that align with their patrons' ideals, violence for Khorne, cunning for Tzeentch, despair for Nurgle, and excess for Slaanesh, there are cases where individuals of seemingly lesser significance are elevated to positions of immense power. This raises the question, is there an unseen design, a divine purpose behind their selection, or is the process as chaotic and unpredictable as the warp itself? The champions themselves often do not fully understand the nature of their transformation. Many speak of visions, whispers, and dreams that lead them down the path of chaos, but the specifics of these experiences vary widely. Some describe an overwhelming sense of purpose, as if they are fulfilling a destiny laid out before them, while others are consumed by doubt and fear, uncertain whether they are tools of the gods or pawns in a larger, inscrutable game. This ambiguity can drive some champions to madness as they struggle to reconcile their mortal ambitions with the incomprehensible will of their patrons. Another enigma lies in the gifts bestowed upon the champions by the Chaos Gods. These blessings, which manifest as physical mutations, psychic powers, or supernatural resilience, often come at a cost that is not immediately apparent. Many champions find their bodies and minds gradually consumed by the warp, their humanity eroded with each passing year. Yet, some appear to defy this inevitability, maintaining a semblance of control over their transformation. How these individuals manage to resist the consuming nature of chaos remains a subject of speculation. Is it sheer willpower, a deeper connection to their patron, or some unknown factor that grants them this resilience? The relationship between the champions and the Chaos Gods is another source of intrigue. While the gods often appear to be omnipotent and omniscient, their interactions with their champions suggest otherwise. There are instances where champions have defied their patrons, acting against their apparent wishes and achieving victories that seem to go unpunished. This raises the question of whether the Chaos Gods are truly in control, or if they are as much at the mercy of their champions as their champions are of them. Some scholars of the warp have suggested that the Chaos Gods may even rely on their champions to a greater extent than they admit, using them not just as tools, but as anchors that tie their influence to the material realm. The fate of fallen champions is another secret that haunts those who serve chaos. While some ascend to demonhood, becoming immortal extensions of their patron's will, others are cast aside, their usefulness at an end. Yet, even in death, their essence often lingers within the warp, their souls trapped in a state of eternal torment or repurposed as fuel for demonic entities. There are also whispers of champions who manage to escape this fate, severing their ties to chaos and returning to the mortal realm. If true, these individuals would possess knowledge and power that could alter the balance of the galaxy, but their stories remain unverified and shrouded in rumor. One of the most disturbing mysteries surrounding the champions is the possibility that their rise is not entirely of their own making. There are accounts of champions who, upon achieving great victories, discover that their actions had been foreseen or even orchestrated by the Chaos Gods long before their birth. This revelation leads to questions about the nature of free will and agency among those who serve Chaos. Are the champions truly independent agents, or are they mere puppets dancing to the tune of their patrons? The champions themselves often grapple with these questions, their doubts and fears adding to the complexity of their character. Many are consumed by paranoia, seeing enemies and conspiracies everywhere. Others embrace the mystery, using it to fuel their ambition and drive, believing that understanding the secrets of chaos will grant them ultimate power. This pursuit of knowledge often leads champions into uncharted territories of the warp, where they encounter truths that defy understanding and entities that exist beyond the comprehension of mortal minds. Even the champion's abilities hold secrets. Many possess powers that seem to transcend the influence of their patron, suggesting that they may have tapped into deeper, more primal forces within the warp. These anomalies are often dismissed by the champions themselves, who attribute their abilities to the blessings of their gods. However, some among the chaos forces and their enemies believe that these powers indicate a more profound connection to the warp, one that even the chaos gods might not fully control. The ultimate secret of the champions of chaos may lie in their role within the larger schemes of the galaxy. While they are undeniably agents of destruction and corruption, their actions often serve to create as much as they destroy. By toppling empires and shattering civilizations, they pave the way for new powers to rise, perpetuating the cycle of change that defines the galaxy. This duality suggests that the champions may not only be servants of chaos, but also instruments of a cosmic balance, their existence necessary to the eternal struggle between order and disorder. In the end, the champions of chaos embody the very essence of mystery and contradiction. They are figures of immense power and ambition, yet their fates are often dictated by forces beyond their understanding. Their secrets are not just their own, but are woven into the fabric of the galaxy itself, ensuring that their stories will continue to intrigue, terrify, and inspire for millennia to come. The champions of chaos stand as enduring symbols of the galaxy's unrelenting strife, embodying the boundless potential and devastating cost of power. Their lives are marked by triumphs that shape the stars and failures that echo through the immaterium. Yet, their stories never truly end. They are woven into the eternal conflict that defines the Warhammer 40k universe, leaving a legacy that both inspires and terrifies. As agents of the Chaos Gods, these champions are more than individuals. They are instruments of divine ambition, chaos incarnate. Their victories carve pathways for their patrons' influence, while their defeats serve as lessons and warnings for those who would follow. Even in death, they do not vanish. Their spirits linger in the warp, their actions immortalized in legend and whispered across the void by those who remember their deeds. The galaxy, for all its vastness, is forever scarred by their presence. Planets burned under their campaigns become barren monuments to chaos. Civilizations corrupted by their influence either fall into ruin or transform into twisted parodies of their former glory. Even those who resist them are changed, their desperation to combat such overwhelming power driving them to adopt methods that blur the line between savior and destroyer. In this way, the champion's legacy is felt not only in destruction, but in the ways they reshape their enemies and the galaxy itself. For the champions themselves, their ultimate fate is as varied as their origins. Some ascend to demonhood, achieving a form of immortality as extensions of their patron gods. These figures become eternal threats, their power growing with each act of devotion. Others fall to the relentless tides of war, consumed by the very chaos they sought to control. Yet, even those who fail to ascend leave their mark, their names etched into history as cautionary tales or rallying cries. The champions' stories remind us of the allure and danger of chaos. They show how ambition, desperation, and a thirst for power can lead mortals to transcend their limits, for better or worse. They also highlight the unpredictable nature of the warp, a force that grants unimaginable power while demanding an unfathomable price. In the end, the champions are not merely figures of chaos. They are reflections of humanity's potential for greatness and its capacity for destruction. Their legacy continues to ripple through time, affecting the lives of countless beings and ensuring that chaos remains a pervasive and enduring force. Whether as villains to be defeated, heroes to be emulated, or enigmas to be feared, the champions of chaos remain central to the endless saga of the galaxy. The question of why they exist is both simple and profound. They are created to serve, to destroy, to conquer, and to corrupt. But they are also created to endure, to remind the galaxy that order is fragile and that the power of chaos cannot be ignored or forgotten. The champions of chaos are not merely tools of destruction, they are agents of transformation, harbingers of change in a galaxy defined by conflict. As the eternal war rages on, new champions will rise, their paths as unique and unpredictable as those who came before them. They will continue to shape the fate of the galaxy, ensuring that chaos remains an ever-present threat and an inescapable part of its history. And as long as there are those who crave power, fear death, or seek liberation from the chains of mortality, the Chaos Gods will find willing servants to carry their banners, forging new legends in their dark and endless shadow.